Hi guys. I thought this morning I would take you through some book cover design awards. So these are some great ones from the UK. They sort of cover off everything. I'm looking at 2018. So I'm just going to take you through some, just so you get a sense of what people are doing in book cover design. I think probably a lot of you think that you will probably be illustrating this, and that might be true, and it might not be true. I would say that it's very difficult to illustrate an entire scene when you're doing a book cover, because it has to sort of stand out so much, and there's an integration with type. So obviously some of the best book covers are a combination of image, illustration, photography, collage, and type. So here's some of the short list for uh, young adult themed books. So that doesn't mean the designers were young, but you can sort of see here, these ones are primarily, when you look at this one, yeah, there is some illustration to it, but more importantly, I think what you want to look at is sort of the edginess of type, the sort of photocopied nature, and then sort of this really interesting space that is made for the dog or wolf in here. So yes, some illustration, but you'll notice that a fairly common theme with these things, same as this one here. If you look at a change is going to come, really interesting sort of layering of type and image. And I think when you get to a level like this, it takes a lot of the pressure off the illustration to actually do all of the work, right? So this release one is a little bit different. It is primarily an illustration, and to be honest, it's not that interesting, other than you can sort of see these the reverse of two people in the silhouettes. But as you look at these, even this circus one, it is more about style and sort of vintage, modern illustration here. Hand rendered type. You'll see that in a couple of these. So this book will change the world. Really kind of a hand rendered title, hand rendered image. And then Winter Magic is more of a traditional sort of contemporary illustration. Pretty interesting. The one thing to keep in mind with all of these things is rarely does the design of the book cover, does the illustration overwhelm the title. So you'll notice that all of these are set up so that the title is one of the stars, right? So I'm just going to click to sci-fi fantasy, and you'll see a little bit more sort of progressive looking ones, a little bit more futuristic. This one is sort of just using some elements of types, some gradients. This is a nice one down here by Nick Harkaway. Really interesting sort of layering of pieces of paper, and then having a shark sort of mixed in. And Shadowless this really is sort of a vintage sort of looking illustration. When you are deciding what you want to do with your book cover design, one of the things to keep in mind is you can find artwork from other places. You do not just have to come up with the image yourself. So this book of Bera, you literally could find something like that on Google Arts, and then try and basically what I want to see is some creativity. So if you were to find that pattern, then you would have to work to sort of get the book of Bera in there. And in fact, if you look back at last year's books or the year before book, one of our students won an applied art for using a painted illustration of a deer and for his book cover, but did so much with it that it really stood out. Um, I just clicked to nonfiction. So here, look at the variety of things going on here. So really layering painted images, layering type to create this. Exactly the same thing going on with Bleaker House. So you sort of see a penguin knocked out of this pattern, and then again, have a look at how the type really ends up being, in the middle of the page, very prevalent. Can't stand up for falling down. Again, some elements of illustration, but also heavy elements of design in there. Revolution, some really cool sort of cutout letters to create this patterning. And then Diary of a Bookseller, a little bit more, but when you look at that illustration, look at how detailed and how advanced that illustrator is. So those are the types of things that I want to warn you about, is trying to illustrate an entire scene versus trying to illustrate items. So, this the dun cow rib would be very difficult to illustrate for most of you, but something like this one, this illustrated dust jacket, it's doable, right? And then certainly things like this, the zoo of the new, those are really sort of graphic design elements that have been put together. Timekeepers, same thing, right? You could find a lot of these elements and put this thing together. So the one thing that you will notice is there is not a lot of straight photography, right? If there's photography, you will notice that it's primarily sort of collage. So here's here's some really nice examples of very graphic, right? Born Free, just the nose of the lion sort of there that people wouldn't recognize. Sandwich. So these all become very iconic book covers, right? Yes, they're illustrative, but they are not full-blown illustrations. Same as Earth, right? It's simply creating kind of this really nice pattern on the Earth. This one over here is a very sort of detailed illustration. Same as this. The Anna Karenina is it's very patterned. So you could find that pattern for somewhere from somewhere for sure. Let's just pop down to some classics. So here's again some good examples. Very graphic one here. Margaret Atwood. Very simple idea, right? So this person using this noose as a swing to sit on. Generation X. So the main thing to take away from these things, let's just jump to 2020 and have a quick look. The main thing to look at these, these are the finalists. There's one with illustration, but that is not, so what's happening is we're illustrating items that are used to support the story, and for the most part they're kind of they're part of a larger design, right? So no big deal. Yes, there is a really nice illustration of a woman in here that makes the eye, but all by itself, that illustration doesn't hold. It doesn't hold the key to this whole design. It's the integration of the person with the type, the colors, the composition, and some of these are sort of pure collage. So you see as we go down, lots of elements of illustration. So this one, it really is sort of a very small part of it is illustration. And so as we go through these, there's very few examples. Like this one is a pure full illustration, but most of them have some sort of illustrative elements. And that's the great thing about book design, is you're looking at the entirety. You're not just looking at, oh, what is the image, right? So a place of greater safety. What a beautiful sort of illustration. illustrating a chain, giving it some multiply to make it seem like an old kind of 1950s print. You can see how the type then picks that up. Hilary Mantel is sort of offset, so it looks like an old silk screen that's out of register. So as we go through these things, yeah, lots of illustration, but illustration in a more of a as a supporting role, right? So there's still some photography. So if you look at this one, really nice collage. So this one, look at how many of these are just sort of type and shapes, illustrative shapes, but really nice, right? So I want to encourage you guys to create original imagery, or if you can make a case why, use found imagery, right? That's absolutely okay, and some of the best designs in the last couple of years have been found imagery. So it really comes down to what you want to do with it.